We are trending on CBS Sports HQ this afternoon. I'm Chris Hassel. Good to have you with us. We have a lot to get to on the eve of the NFL kicking off its first full weekend of preseason games, including Aaron Donal hinting at a possible return, but still no movement on several high-profile holdouts and hold-ins. Cowboys 3 days from beginning their preseason schedule against the Rams in L.A., but it's already been a long week at camp. Jerry Jones saying today that it was easier to buy the Cowboys than it has been to get a deal done with Micah Parsons, as we take you through the week in the words of Jerry, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Are you surprised it's gotten to this point?
Not really. Not really at all. This is just negotiation.
Any confidence that he will be on the field against Philadelphia?
Again, no. Absolutely not. A big part of that is his decision. In the case of a player contract, you have to have it in writing. All parties do. We have a contract in writing, yet we're still talking about renegotiating it. So much for that.
All right, it's a big deal on social media as we welcome in two-time Super Bowl champion Logan Ryan. It's a big deal in media. I mean, we're talking about it every hour of every day. But how much of an actual distraction is something like this for the team?
Well, that's a great question. I would say it's a complete distraction, because I look at first-year head coach and Brian Schottenheimer. He inherited this job. He took over this job. We all were kind of shocked by that decision, but the Cowboys, Jerry, felt like that was the best coach for the job. And this is what he's inheriting, right? And when you're a young player and you get drafted by a team, your goal is to go out there and earn another contract. Do everything you can do for that team to show that you want to stay there. Show you earned the opportunity to get a raise. And by not paying Micah Parsons, or taking this long to pay him, has to be a huge distraction to everybody. Because as a young player, you're telling me, if I go out there and I have generational numbers, go out there and lead a league in sacks, I go out there and have the same numbers as Hall of Famers, why am I not getting rewarded? Micah's not getting rewarded, so there's no way that they're going to pay me. So it puts doubt in every player's head in that locker room. But the Cowboys have negotiated like this. Dak Prescott went through this. CeeDee Lamb went through this. So maybe that locker room's used to it. But any NFL locker room I would have been in, it would have been extremely distracting when your best players are not getting paid.
What do you do, say you're a veteran on that team, to try to keep the team together, to try to keep the focus on the field?
You're always going to answer the question, because any question you do, no matter how well Logan Ryan practices that day, is going to be asked about Micah Parsons. So, one, you don't want to step in his business. You're going to support him as a teammate. Most of these guys change their Twitter profile picture to Micah. They're in step in step with him. We know they did that because as a player, that you want to see one of your brothers get paid. But it gets really distracting because you're trying to focus on your job, but now you got to talk about someone else's business every single answer of every single day. So until it gets done, it's a distraction. But as a player, you do your best to focus on what you do to feed your family. You don't want to talk about it too much because you don't want to misspeak for Micah Parsons or get yourself in own hot water when you're speaking bad about the owner. He also employs you and writes your check as well. So it's hot water for everybody. You just try to mind your own business the best you can.
Cowboys open up the preseason against the Rams on Saturday night in L.A., Inglewood, SoFi Stadium. Aaron Donal writing on social media, the former Ram, that if they can pull off a trade for Parsons, he might have to get back into playing shape in return. Obviously, just a joke there, but for the Rams specifically, Logan, you've got Matthew Stafford with back issues, had an epidural. Where do you see this team as it stands right now in the NFC and NFC West particularly?
Well, they're always a contender with Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. So really this injury is the biggest news here. If this is for him to hurt his back or aggravate his back and getting the epidural shot, which is a painkiller and which will last some weeks, but will he need another one? Will he need maintenance shot throughout the season? I mean, they have stayed relevant since Aaron Donal retired. They stayed contenders since he retired. They were a pass away from the NFC Championship last year and beating the Eagles. So they are extremely dangerous as long as Matt Stafford's back there. For the Aaron Donal part of this, he stays in great shape. So him making a return wouldn't be the most crazy thing to me. We've seen Brady return. We've seen some players return. I made a return after a brief retirement. So it is easily possible, especially when you work out like Aaron Donal does. So if they do get Micah Parsons, there might be something there. I don't think Michael's leaving Dallas, but Aaron Donal's probably in good shape. He could probably return after about 1 week of practice. I think he'll be good enough to start. For
okay, so interesting. I thought it was just kind of a joke. Yeah, you know, you go trade for him, bring me back. You think this could be possible for Donald to return? You really think he could come back, Logan?
Why not? I mean, why not for Aaron Donald? I mean, he trains anyway. He lives a lifestyle that made him so different. He's still working out harder than Jared Verse, if you saw that video. So he is in great shape. I think it's just a 1-2 thing with Aaron Donald. I think he got bored of the dominance. He was tired of how much work it takes to do that away from his family. So you call him after Thanksgiving, and he might pick up and say yes. We'll see what the Rams are this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Donald made some return to football.
All right, let's get to your old team, the New England Patriots, two-time Super Bowl champion. Their interesting day at camp. Mike Vrabel, former player, obviously, new head coach. He got caught up breaking up a fight in a joint practice with the Commanders, and this is what his second-year quarterback, Drake May, had to say about it afterwards.
No, I think, like I said, that's what we're trying to build, I think. And it starts with the coach, starts with the head coach, the intensity, bringing it every day, taking no crap, we're out there on the field. But also it comes at a time where with our guys offensively, you get over there and get some tussles and kind of having some penalties and extra after the whistle can get us in trouble. But for mentality, I like it. I think that's what you want. I mean, I almost got in there, but I think maybe another day, maybe. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe not want the franchise quarterback in there, but your hard-nosed head coach, Logan, what does that say to you if you're on that team, if your coach is getting in there and getting bloodied?
I'm not surprised at all. I was in training camp with Mike Vrabel there in Tennessee, and he got in a few scuffles, not fighting, but breaking them up. He's not afraid to put the big old wedge on and do some D lineman drills. He's not afraid to go to pro day and try out some offensive linemen, and he'll even go in there and brag about how many touchdown passes he caught in his career, and he'll run some routes with the tight ends in red zone day and talk some smack to the DBs because he had Brady throwing him wide open passes down there in his career as a goal line tight end for the Patriots. So Mike Vrabel is a former player through and through. He is not afraid to show it. I've seen him do this time and time again. He hasn't got bloodied too many times, but you don't want your franchise quarterback jumping in the piles at camp. You don't expect your head coach to jump in the piles at camp, but this is true Mike Vrabel. What he practices, how he preaches. He's a tough individual. He's an alpha male that led a lot of teams, and that's how he coaches, and I'm not surprised by this one bit.
Vrabel seems like he would have been a smelling salts guy. Maybe he still is as a coach, but obviously news this week that the NFL is banning smelling salts because they're worried about how it might mask signs of a concussion. How do you feel as someone who admittedly liked using smelling salts?
Yeah, this is soft. I mean, we're getting softer by the day in this league. As a retired player, I'm going to just talk about how soft the league is now. And it is. I mean, every player probably uses smelling salts. I've never once seen somebody say, hey, I think I have a concussion, throw me a smelling salt so I can mask the signs. They're not used that way. They're used to kind of give you that breath of fresh air and fresh thought before you run down on kickoff. And I want you to go back to any of your favorite players on NFL films, any physical player, Sean Taylor, Brian Dawkins, John Lynch, Ray Lewis, whoever you grew up watching, LaDainian Tomlinson, Eddie George, and I guarantee they all use smelling salts before every series of every game, before every kickoff of every game. Some of your favorite NFL running backs use smelling salts before every series. This is what we use as players to get our mind right to get in the game. It's just synonymous with football. So this is a big deal for a lot of guys. I know Kittle considered retirement over this jokingly, but guys are going to find a way to get these on the field now. I don't know how they'll do it. I don't know where they'll tape the smelling salts. I don't know if they'll put them in a Gatorade bottle or whatnot, but smelling salts are going to need to find their way on the field because I can't picture NFL football without smelling salts. How much smelling salts I saw get sniffed personally in a game, I don't think players can go without it.
Logan Ryan bringing the heat here on HQ as the NFL bans smelling salts and maybe alters the course for some of the players to try to find a different way. Maybe you just plug them up your nose and play with them the whole game. Logan, thank you so much for the time. I didn't hear a word he said.
I almost came in like that. Like I thought about it. I was changing, and I was like, why don't I just roll out there without a top? I've been working out.
It reminded me of the Chippendale skit from SNL. Patrick Swayze and Chris Farley.
I would have been Chris Farley next to him, that's for sure.
What did he say, Noah? I think he likes Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Shedeur is going to get the start. What I'd like to know from you, though, is this is a guy who, all reports out of Browns camp is that he's only taken fourth-team reps. This game is just a couple of days away, and he's going to face the #1 defense for the Carolina Panthers, at least to start. What kind of position is he in to have success?
We're already doing this. Like, I'm already getting tired of the Shedeur Sanders conversation, because what other quarterbacks across the NFL that are 3rd or 4th on the depth chart are we leading a show with? Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, none.
That, like, right, but it's the Shedeur Sanders effect, right? That's what it is. To your question, though, Chris, I always thought all along this was a great situation for him. I know nobody wanted to see him drop, and he didn't want to drop this far, but this is as wide open a quarterback room as there is in the NFL, with an opportunity to work his way up the depth chart. My favorite part about this offseason, after we've gotten the draft over with, is that Shedeur Sanders is handling it the right way. Like, he's putting his head down, hasn't complained, hasn't, made any issues or brought up any complaints about where he was drafted. He just said, I'm going to go to work. And when I hear a guy like Myles Garrett and other teammates of his saying that he's doing the right things, that he's working hard, he's showing up early, and he's staying late, those are great signs for me, for him. So I think he's got to view this as an opportunity. The first preseason game is the best one to play in, because it's still very basic as far as what defenses you're going to see. Like, they're not going to throw a lot at him. Everybody's just kind of figuring out their rosters. So he's going to see very basic vanilla defenses. That's a good thing. He's going to be running basic vanilla offensive plays that he's comfortable with. I get there could be some deficiencies playing with backups against the starting team, but he's not going to play just a series or two. We'll get to see him a little bit longer than normally other starters only go 1 series, maybe 2 series. So I would expect him maybe to start off a little rough, maybe get sacked a couple times. But the best part is he'll get reps that he can get on tape and that he can learn from. That's what he needs, is to learn and speed up that learning process. The best way to do that is to get live reps.
Is the injuries to the other guys, Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel, is that going to put him in a better position to be higher on the depth chart going into the season, no matter how he plays?
I think so. I think you have to view it that way if you're him. Like, you've got to make the most of this opportunity. Those other, the Bill Parcells line, you can't make the club in the tub. That would concern me for Kenny Pickett, not so much for Dillon Gabriel as a 3rd-round draft pick, but you have the best opportunity to impress. So you've got to go out there and view it as such. And with those guys, like, I get there's a risk that he goes out there and play bad, but I guarantee you, Shedeur Sanders isn't thinking, what if I play bad? He's thinking, what if I go out there and ball and make some of the same throws that I made when I was at Colorado and I've made my entire life? So I think you have to view this as a good opportunity for Shedeur. It's almost, but I hear a lot of people making excuses for him already. I don't want to hear that. Like, everybody has different issues they're dealing with in training camp and in the preseason. Go out there, make the most of this opportunity. I think it could be bumpy, but if he shows you flashes, if he makes 1 touchdown throw, what do you think's leading every highlight show? Not the bad ones, the big throw that he makes.
Right.
So he can go out there and flash and turn some heads, which is an opportunity for him that those other guys that aren't playing don't have.
Is there any chance that, barring injury, Joe Flacco isn't the starter to start the season?
No, Joe Flacco's the guy #1. I get the sense, though, I don't know if you've noticed this, when Stefanski is talking to the media and they start off the media session by asking about your 3rd or 4th stringer, he's kind of like, all right, enough already. And we've seen this happen with Tim Tebow back when he was on the Patriots, really. When you start becoming more of a distraction and an issue that, like, coaches don't want to have to deal with that all the time. They want to be asked about guys that are actually going to be playing. But again, I think it goes back to how Shedeur handles it. I think he's doing the right things, but it's almost like the media does you a disservice by constantly bringing your name up. The less he's talked about, it's probably the better for him in the locker room and with his coaching staff.
Going to be talking about him all day on Friday leading up to the game, and I'm sure we'll have a huge highlight on CBS Sports HQ, and he's going to be 95 to 100% of it, no doubt about it. All right, let's look at the preseason slate for Thursday. And a couple interesting things here. Anthony Richardson is in that quarterback battle with Daniel Jones in Indianapolis, so he's going to get the start for the Colts against the Ravens. Joe Burrow is going to play a bunch along with Bengals starters against the Eagles. And you have Pete Carroll, now the head coach of the Raiders, facing his former team. Geno Smith is going to also play against his former team. Now, Zach Taylor, head coach of the Bengals, has said that he wants Burrow and many of his starters to play more in the preseason because they've struggled to start the last several seasons. I mean, Burrow as a starter in weeks 1 and 2, overall 1-9. Last 2 years, 0-6, and they've dug themselves holes that we saw it last year. They look like they could have been a contender had they not started off so horribly. They've lost 6 straight in weeks 1 and 2. Can it make a difference if you do see more from Burrow and the starters in the preseason?
Absolutely. I love this decision from Zach Taylor. I go back to Tom Brady, the GOAT, right? When he was with the Patriots, everyone was kind of flabbergasted. Why is he playing in the preseason at all? Like, why is he taking any snaps? He knew the importance of getting off to a strong start. So I love this. You do develop that kind of hardness and toughness, and there's when you hit as much, specifically for the players that actually get tackled and do the tackling, but it's almost like a boxer. It's why they spar and they box against other guys as opposed to just shadow boxing, because that's all that the NFL players do in the preseason typically is they're not tackling full speed at all during practice. This is your one opportunity to get some live reps. So I love this because I do think you can get a leg up on all those teams that rest their starters, that don't let a lot of the starters play in the preseason. So I think this is a brilliant move and the right strategy to take. Now, there will be, if the worst thing happens in the world, I don't even like saying it out loud. People are going to lose their minds, but you could get hurt in a non-contact drill, running routes or walking down the stairs. I mean, we've seen wild injuries. It is a physical game. I think you have to take that risk in order to get that strong start.
So we're going to see a bunch of starters. Not going to see Trey Hendrickson, though. He continues to hold in. And he was really the lone bright spot on that defense, really has been for the last couple of years. Let's assume he gets a deal done. Let's assume he plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is he enough to make you believe that this defense can be good enough to make them a real contender in the AFC?
Trey Hendrickson. He was there last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And they weren't a contender. Yeah,
right, exactly. So I don't know if
you don't think that defense is ready?
No, I don't think they've made enough moves because they've had to spend so much on their offensive weapons, which I would too, right? You don't want to let Jamar Chase and T. Higgins just walk off without taking care of those guys. They paid Joe Burrow, so they paid a lot on the offensive side of the ball. And the one piece that they did add in the draft, Shamar Stewart, I know it was a, polarizing, contract holdout that got a lot of attention, but he was also a player when he was in college that didn't produce a lot in the stat column. If you remember during the draft process, he was rising up the ranks because of the way he looked in workouts, right? He's tested off the charts and he was insane at the combine. I still need to see that player produce. And even if he had produced in college, there's always that uncertainty. There's a learning curve that comes when you get to the NFL of being able to make that impact right away. The good news is, how much worse can you get? You would hope that continuity and bringing back some veterans and a guy like Trey Hendrickson can continue to improve. But I don't think this defense is going to be dramatically improved by any means.
So what's the ceiling for the Bengals then, if you don't think that defense is good enough to get them there?
I do think this is the thing, and I do believe Joe Burrow, he said this a couple years ago after the first Super Bowl loss when we just all thought they'd be right back there. As long as Joe Burrow's healthy, they'll be competitive in games. But you get really... you don't want to get in that game where you're trying to outscore everybody and your defense becomes such a liability. I don't think they even have to be a top half of the NFL defense, but if they can just be around that mid-tier, then they'll be fine because they will win a lot of games on the offensive side of the ball.
They're taking on the Eagles to start off the preseason on Thursday. We showed you that comparison of Stewart to Myles Garrett. Also a comparison for an Eagle, a new Eagle, to a top pass rusher. Saquon Barkley is comparing Jahad Campbell to Micah Parsons, says he's built like Micah Parsons. How would you feel if you're a rookie coming in and maybe the star on your team is already comparing you to one of these stars of the NFL?
I would feel great, but I'd also be very cautious, right? I'd be like, oh, wait a second. You just set that bar so high for me as a rookie to come in and have the type of career already that Micah Parsons had, which is one of the fastest starts we've seen from a pass rusher. Also plays a different position, but I think just from a body type and the style of play is the similarity, right? I don't think anybody's predicting he'll get that type of production, but he is in a great position because the Eagles don't have to force him. Like we were just talking about Shamar Stewart, he has to play great in order for that Bengals defense to be good. You don't have to necessarily play great, and you have the luxury of being able to sprinkle him in different situations, kind of easing him into things in the Eagles' rotation so that he can excel one day. So I think they're in a great spot. He's got good veterans around him that are going to take him under his wing, and it does look like Howie Roseman has done it yet again by adding some critical pieces on a defense which lost so much.
Well, they've also had to add some coaches as well to fill in the holes because Kellen Moore, now the head coach with the Saints, and this is an incredible stat. Jalen Hurts, somehow it's his 10th straight season, or at least 10th season that he's had to deal with a new offensive coordinator. What do you think that Kevin Patullo is going to bring to this offense?
Our producer Noah hit me up with that stat. I was looking at CBSSports.com. It said 12 play callers since 2016. So I don't know who's right or wrong. So it possibly could be even a greater number. That might be one of the most impressive stats I've seen considering the career that Jalen Hurts has had, right? And I do think the one thing that is good for him is that this is another situation. Last year wasn't the case, but you're elevating from within. Mm-hmm. So you're not having to deal with a lot of new terminology. He already has a relationship with Patullo, who was the pass game coordinator. I think they have a really good communication, but this is what I think makes Jalen Hurts special. You know, we've heard him talk about the process and the preparation and the work ethic. You've basically got an extension of the coach on the field. Like Jalen Hurts knows this offense in and out. So that's an incredible luxury to have. And the fact that he's been so comfortable, that he takes such good care of the football, I think is where this shouldn't be that concerning for the Eagles.
I'm not sure if we're going to see many of those Eagles offensive stars in the preseason at all, especially in this first game against the Bengals. Producer Noah did want to hold your feet to the fire here with a month to go until our first NFL Sunday on CBS. Will the Eagles repeat?
Oh, this is easy. I'm a hard pass on the Eagles repeating. It's one of the hardest things to do in all of sports.
Actually, you know what's crazy? It's easier to go back-to-back in the Super Bowl than it is to go back-to-back in the NFC East, because you got to go back, I think it's 22 years to the last repeat winner of the division. We've had a couple repeat champions since then. The Patriots did it right around then. Chiefs did it a couple of years ago. But
I don't know if I would go out and say they don't win the NFC East again. Like, I think there probably is more of a likelihood they could repeat as division winners, considering some of the question marks. Washington could mount a pretty significant challenge. It's just, if you gave me them or all those other teams, I get 31 others, I'm taking the field every single time. So, like, I'm going to pick somebody else to win the Super Bowl. They'll be competitive again. They'll be right back in the mix. They have too good of a core nucleus on the offensive side of the ball. So I think they'll be back in the hunt, but I'm not picking them to repeat.
All right, Danny Kanell looking ahead to the season. And tomorrow, the first preseason games of the weekend kick off, and Bengals and Eagles will highlight that.